Hey, Dr. Eddie Weller, welcome again to, gosh, I don't even know if we call it a podcast or Getting Weller show, whatever it is, but I'm just sharing. And it's not just a place to be heard, it's a place to be motivated and inspired and just to have this Getting Weller life of having a healthy body, a healthy mind, and healthy relationship. So I want to talk about the body thing, but usually when I talk as a doctor, I talk about the importance of having a healthy, fit body. But what does that mean? But I really want to get into the why behind why some people do what they do. Particularly, I know this is going to be a little rough, women. I shared a moment, I had a moment with my daughter, let me get my phone here, had a moment with my daughter, and we were chit-chatting, and I sent her a picture of this girl that had very, very, very short shorts, and her butt cheeks were hanging square out of these things. And it was a little bit beyond rough. Somebody had shared this with me about a story. And, I talk about the importance of covering your, or creating your, or having your, or being your, all of these things. Are we covering or being or adding or serving or giving to our assets? I talk about that, our assets. And so, when I used this analogy, I was with some patients yesterday, and we were talking, and I said, how many girls do you know, as a woman who is in her early 20s, how many girls do you know that are, revealing too much? I mean, gosh, look at the homecoming stuff right now. I mean, there's this wild meme that's a 1950s-ish, 60s swimsuit meme, and these women wearing one-piece swimsuits. That's exactly what the dresses look like today. Why do women feel like less is more? And there's certain religions that keep people covered, both male and female, because it's a sacred thing. And so I wanted to share this with my daughter about being respectful, because why is your business, your body, everybody else's business? Why is that? And so why is, when people do all the different things that we do and reveal the things that we reveal, why do we do that? Why do we have this need to be needed? All of the time. It's such an insecurity. It's toxic. It's dangerous. So this woman, Diane Walls is her name. I saw this quote. There was a post that was put on Facebook, and then so I was looking at some things and flipping. Somebody showed me a picture again with this girl with her butt hanging out, and then it said, this is for young ladies out there, and it's really not just for young ladies. This is for all people, particularly women. Sorry, I'm going after that right now because men are visual beings, and judgment call is made when people are wearing a certain something. No different than wearing a cheap clothes versus expensive clothes, driving a cheaper car or an expensive car. There's judgment. When you see somebody wearing certain something, wow, they are loose. That girl's a slut. What a whore. I would never let my daughter wear that. We live in judgment. We do. Humans do this. No other species does. Humans do this. And so when I see this, by this quote, by this woman here, a woman arrived in a store wearing clothes that revealed her body too much, revealed her clothes. The shop owner, then being a wise older man, took a look at her, asked her to sit down, looked straight into her eyes, and said something that she would never forget for the rest of her life. The young lady, as he's looking at her, he says, young lady, everything that God has made valuable in this world is covered up and hard to see or find. And then he used the example. Where can you find diamonds? In the ground, covered and protected. Where are the pearls? Deep in the ocean, covered and protected in a beautiful shell. Where can you find gold? Underground, covered with layers of rock. To get there, you have to work very hard and dig very, very deep. He looked at her again and says, your body is sacred and unique to God. You are far more precious than gold, diamonds, and pearls. Therefore, you must be covered too. See, it's not a judgment call. It's a really cool quote as this goes on. And I think about all of the different things that we do. But here it says, but if you let your minerals find themselves to the top of the earth's surface, exposed to everyone, you will always attract many illegal miners come and exploit and illegally and freely take those riches and leave you without precious goods that God had given you. Women, you are valuable. Remember, Class is more desirable than trash. Cool, really cool little conversation and quote. So I shared this with my 13-year-old daughter, soon to be 14, and all of the different girls that they wear certain things. And when I see different patients and I talk about relationships they have, when people are married, they don't usually wear too many revealing things. Again, this isn't about a clothing thing. This is a self-esteem thing. This is about how your mind, healthy body, healthy mind, healthy relationships, that's how all of this ties in together. And so another cool quote I was thinking about, David Foster Wallace. I wrote it down here. I write all over my board here on my desk. David Foster Wallace. And one of the really cool quote that he had said is you'll stop worrying of what other people think of you when you realize how seldom they do. You get that? How often do you think people are really thinking about you and entertaining their lives about you and your life? Maybe they're living in a world of compare, but let them. Let them. Neat little clip I'm going to put on here. I just saw this woman named Mel that has a podcast, and she's a rock star. And so I saw her quote about, let them. Let them. If somebody wants to do something, let them. Somebody's married and you have your spouse and they're not into what you're into. Let them do what they want to do. Just like they should let you do what you want to do. But when it comes down to the clothing, of course, it's your body. But how do you want to be looked at? How do you want to be respected? How do you want to just go, wow, let's not even talk about clothing right now. Let's go into something that's even easier to talk about. Somebody who's in shape and somebody who's overweight. Who gets respected more? We live this way, people. Somebody has, piercings all over their face or maybe, people judge them with tattoos. I've got some tattoos. But when you do that, and there's a judgment call there. Why? Because that's who we are. I was talking to two other friends of mine, patients of mine, we're chit-chatting, and one of them is really struggling looking for a job. And he likes the corporate world, he likes sales and that kind of thing. And I said, okay. I want to share something with you. We live in a world of judgment, do we not? And he said, yeah. I said, okay. So they don't know who you are because that ink, those letters on a piece of paper is a resume or a CV, and you turn that in, right? You're in the stack. What makes you unique? What makes you different? What sets you apart from others? What standard are you creating for your life? Because it all comes down to standards, right? And so on every level, it's a standard. It's what you want for your life and how you want to be perceived. And so I always make the recommendation to people, and if you haven't done this and you're looking for a job, do this. Just do this. I think realtors are the first ones to do this. It was super smooth. Is you put my business card has my picture on it, right? I'm doing this funny move on the picture card. It sets me apart, makes me unique. It's kind of illustrating what it is that I do in my practice here. But realtors put their face, right? A little headshot, right? A little headshot on there. And they put their face because there are a billion realtors out there. Why would I want that person? There's a billion people applying for your job. Why would I hire you? Put your picture on your resume. Get a really clean headshot. You can get them anywhere. You can go to JCPenney still, I think, and Sears and do that. So I think of all of the different opportunities to be unique, but you don't have to lower your standards to be unique. You don't have to, I've seen guys, I'm not going to point fingers on them or even call them a certain something, but have you ever seen certain, genre? I don't even know, categories. When you see people wearing their pants down and you can see their underwear, this is, this isn't a race car. It isn't white people, black people, Asian. It doesn't matter. I've seen all different types of ages and all different type of races do this. And it was like, why are you wearing your pants so low? Who wants to see your underwear? I don't want to see your underwear. It's like women wearing something short and you can see the top of their underwear. I don't want to see your underwear. Why would you want to, people looking at us as, oh man, you're not looking at her to go, wow, I really want to get to know her. If you're, Indian, right? And so not American Indian, but like Middle Eastern Indian, and you see the dot in between the eyes. That's because you're supposed to look at a woman first, at her eyes. And when you see that dot, you know that there is something going on in the family where this person is either an arranged marriage or she is taken. Kind of like we use, in America, we use rings. We put them on the left hand. Some people use rings and they put them on the right hand in Europe. Other ones put a dot there. Or there's a nose ring that signifies, again, it sets a standard of who I am and what I'm representing for myself. And I'm covered physically. And if I'm covered physically, there's a different respect there. Somebody walks into a business meeting and they're wearing shorts, flip-flops, and a t-shirt. And the other person shows up with a collared pressed shirt, maybe a blazer or even a tie, and the shoes are shiny. Who's going to get more respect? This isn't hard. Why? I don't understand. It's kind of like when patients walk into my office. My office is always clean. I'm particularly clean. It's always clean. I teach my children that ever since the word go. A clean car is a happy car. A clean house is a happy house. Why? Because there's no chaos then. Everything has a reason. Everything has a purpose and a place. That's what we should do with our lives. Some people, I don't like going to the gym. Good. Move. You should just physically move your body. When you see the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even into the 70s, going into the 80s, that's when it plummeted. I'll explain why. When I talk about 30s through the 30, 40, 50, 60, 70s, look at any beach pictures. Look at any ballroom pictures. Look at any picture of any human, regardless of race. Were they overweight? No. There was a standard set that we didn't do that. However, we can argue the food thing because there's chemicals everywhere. Yes, but you can have an option right now of not shopping in the center of the store where all the processed stuff is, and you can shop the perimeter of the store. That's another podcast. However, you need to fuel your body. But when you fuel your body, not only nutritionally, how are you fueling your mind? Because your body's reacting to your mind's thoughts. How do I know? Well, there's several ways to prove this, but wiggle your toes. I talk about this at seminars. Wiggle your toes. And you wiggle your toes. How did you do that? So your body is listening. But on the flip side, your body can make you feel a certain way. When people start to physically get in shape and they like how their pants are fitting, their clothes are fitting, right? You look into the mirror like, I feel good about me. Your energy is different. Your vibration, your frequency, it's totally different, right? When you go to the gym or you're exercising, your clothes fit, it feels good to feel good. But does it feel good when people look at you a certain way? Women, when a man looks at you and they look at her and says, oh man, I would. You don't want people to look at you that way. You want people to respect you that way. There's not an I would. It's more like, I wish I could meet that standard. Wow, she's stunning. See the different gauge, the different level of who you are? It's covering your assets. And your asset is your body. It's the only place you get to live. And I know it's just a weird way of putting it, but it's the absolute truth. When you take care of you, then you can go have the certain relationships you have. Or you can be a healthier you, and God's given you a gift. You can serve with it. Or even so, something is so simple of waking up, putting your feet on the ground and going, I got another day to be the best version of me today. And so you don't feel guilty about doing certain things in your life because you have a certain standard. And when you live by your standards, there's no guilt. You have a gauge. You have a way of placing your life in a certain system that you've created a policy, if you will, to say, nope, I can't wear that. Nope, I can't be that. No, I'm not going to drive that. This isn't an ego play. It's a standard thing. It's a standard. It's really that simple. So when I talk about even, biblical Christian standards that I live by, I have a certain standard that I choose to live by. Doesn't make me better than anybody else. It's my standard. I didn't create this. I'm just adhering to it. I like when I have my spine checked and adjusted by a chiropractor to make sure neurologically I'm sound. That's a standard that I have. I do not eat a ton of processed food. It's a standard that I have. But see, it's really that simple. I like to physically move. I'm up to 200 and something, 250 I just did. Today, 250 push-ups so far today. People are like, how do you do that? Well, you do little at a time. Because I created a standard. This is what I want to do. I have a goal of doing 1,000 push-ups in an hour. That's my goal. And so in order to do that, then I have to work on that standard or that goal. What are you working on? What are you trying to attract? You see these stupid YouTube channels where these people doing these silly things with their bodies in order to attract, sex sells, let's be honest. It's been happening forever. There's Gold Digger on YouTube channels, or these women are doing this and all for likes. And this is where, it gets really difficult. And I want to go down the rabbit hole of this a little bit. Because we've never thought about it this way, especially when it comes to men and women in certain relationships that they have, women in their 20s, 30s, maybe even a little bit their 40s right now, but definitely 20s and 30s today, is that all of the girls, you ever notice when, again, going back to the clothing, when you see these, high school dresses, all of them are wearing the same style. They're all wearing the same style dress. Yes, there's trends and styles, but they're all wearing these. Either they're wearing, these tennis shoes, gym shoes, I call them, and these, these short, crazy dresses, and everything is being revealed. It's kind of like yoga pants. As comfortable as they are, they leave nothing to the imagination. It looks like skin that's a different color. That's it. So they can be pink, orange, green, yellow, blue. You can see it all. Why? Yoga pants are great. We used to call, we're growing up in the 80s. We had these stretch pants or their stirrup pants. But again, you had long sweaters or longer shirts covering your tush. Why wouldn't you do that? And so, again, the standard of who you are and the policy of who you are, it's really, really, really important. And I think all of the time, as I always say that, I think my mind doesn't shut up. And I'm going, why would we do that? Why would we think that? Why would we want that in our lives? I have a certain perception of how I want to be looked at. And so, don't you? Don't you just go, no. I used to be that guy. I'm not going to do that anymore. I used to be that girl. I'm not going to do. We've done that. I have done that. Growing up, I was a pretty big ass. I was just this, there was tons of ego. I was super insecure. I manipulated people when I was growing up and make them feeling less than, joke. No, that's called being an ass. And somebody doesn't have any standards or principles of what they live by. They don't. And so until I have been called out by many people who actually care about me, and people that just said, Eddie, what are you doing? One of them was my mother. And so she would call me out. And there's noise upstairs. And so they'd call me out. And I'm just going, I get it. I don't know if I want to be that anymore. You take this line as you write down things that you want, and you draw this line. And you say, nope, there's the new standard. Nope, I'm not going to do that anymore. And I remember having to let go of that because our conscious, the spirit in us, God speaks to us all of the time. I mean, when you're doing right and you're feeling good, and when you're doing wrong. If outside of the clothes, let's just disregard the clothes and let's just go back to your own standards and your policy of what you want. This is tough. Is that I had to create a new standard for the asset of who Eddie Weller was. And we all have to do this. We have to kind of put ourselves in check and go, I need to step back, kind of recalibrate my life right here and kind of reset and regroup, if you will, and go, what is the vision? What's the purpose? What do I want in my life? Because I have to set a new standard. Because if I keep the same asset, if you will, let's just think of a property asset. Right? Something that is making you money or something that gives you some sort of financial value, right? You maintain it. You do the best you can. You take care of the house. You maintain the home and you clean it and you get ready. Because when you have to sell the asset, it's creating value because you're maintaining it. And that's how our bodies should be. That's how our lives should be. As we learn and we take on new things and we overcome, we become more valuable, not only to people who we can serve, but to ourselves. And when we have this relationship with God, and when we kind of lean on God, I call God Dad a lot. I'm like, hey, Dad, I got a question, man. As I always say, I don't know what you're up to today, but I want to be part of it because I know there's a certain standard that I have that I want to make you happy. I want to make you proud. I want to put a smile on your face, Dad. That's how I talk to God. It's a cool relationship that I have. You can use it. It's not mine. It's just something that I've kind of come up with way back, and I want to have a closer relationship with God. And when I do, I have to get rid of some things of the old me and maybe people in my life that are not meeting that standard that now this is who I am. I used to eat McDonald's, just using an analogy. I used to eat McDonald's all of the time. And now I can't eat McDonald's. Why? You're better than me because you're not eating McDonald's anymore? No, that's just not for me any longer. How many things have you broken away from? How many times, as I always tell people, I was a doctor at 26. I wasn't a man until 28. Why? What happened? Because there were new standards, new things in my life. And so I was called out and I was asked to step up, if you will, with other people in my life. Particularly this woman that I was dating, we found Christ together. She transformed my life. She made me man up. And so how do you do that? She created a new standard and held me to that standard. And when I was held to that standard, now I'm a different me. I'm a different being. I'm a different Eddie. And do we slip? Sure, we slip. I have a group of men that we call chit-chat and we throw stuff back and forth. Men that just are Christ followers that call each other out and keep each other accountable. Iron sharpens iron. Yeah, that's the truth. So what group, who are you surrounding yourself with? And who have you given yourself or others permission to call you out? I've given a group of people, a handful, to call me out, to set a standard. We have to do that because my Eddie Weller asset of who I am in my life, I want to leave a legacy that's constructive, that's positive, that's motivational, that's inspirational, that says, I don't know what that dude's up to, but I want to be part of it. That's what I want to do and leave a legacy because there are others that I am following that I was like, man, I don't know if I can meet that standard. I need to get rid of some things so I can become a better asset to others. That's what that's about. You want a rock star relationship? I try to be in a relationship, to where my daughter looks at me and says, I want somebody like my dad. Because my dad, look how my dad does this and my dad does that. I'm creating a standard for my daughter. Vice versa, my son. They're both in middle school. My son, and I go, when they see, he doesn't see me yell, ever. They've never heard me, never. That's not who I'm going to be. I'm not going to lose my cool. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to walk away. I need to regroup. That's how I want to take control because I don't ever want to be in an environment to where, oh, my dad did that. I can do it because dad did it. For instance, I remember way back, we're talking 20-something years ago in practice, and I've been practicing for 25 years now, and in practice, this family comes on in. Oh my gosh, I remember this like yesterday. Family comes on in, and the little one is 4, 5. So I have a checking chair. You sit down in the chair and I check their spine. I have an instrument that I slide up the spine and it kind of helps me gauge the nervous system. And so I'm like, all right, buddy, come on down, sit down. So he sits on down and I said, come on, let's sit. And he's bouncing off the walls, just being a kiddo. I'm like, oh, come on. Hey, we got to knock it off real quick. We got to be a little respectful of Dr. Eddie's office. It's okay. We got to stop. And he said, okay. And he's looking at me and mom's like, stop. And he looks over at me and he's like, shut up. I'm like, wow. Did that just, this is my house. My office, I call it my house. This is my house. And I'm thinking, we don't do that in my home, when at my home. I don't do it in my office home either. What is going, no, unacceptable. Standard. See how there's a standard, there's a gauge? That's unacceptable. And I looked at mom and I put my hand on my chest as I always do. And I put my hand on out like a stop. And I said, Mom, you need to stop right now. I need to have a conversation with your son. Stop, right? Don't get warm. Don't do anything because I saw her face. And I got on my knees. This little 4-year-old, and he knew well aware what he was saying. I got on my knees and I said, hey, buddy, we don't talk like that. Especially, we never talk like that to our mother. Ever. We don't do that. And he looks at me. It's craziness. And he looks right at me and says, why? Dad does. Now I had nothing. You see, the standard in the house was there. That was allowed. That was acceptable. And she allowed that to happen. And so there was no standard. It wasn't Dad's standard. She needed to say that's unacceptable. The man in my life does not do that. I want a godly man. I want a man that serves. I want a man that nurtures and protects. That's not protecting the house and the family. That's not leaving a legacy that's constructive for our children. No. You see the standard? So women, I'm telling you, women got this world knocked out. I mean, my gosh, if I was a woman, this is craziness how easy this is. Because you will keep a man on his toes. Always. You create a standard. He'll chase you. He'll want to protect you. He will. If you set a standard, but if you allow him to lead a little bit, this has nothing to do with submitting. All right, that's a whole nother conversation. Allow him to lead a little bit by setting a standard in the house and let him protect, because when you're protected and you are taken care of emotionally, physically, financially, all of the above, when you're protected, pray together. Oh my gosh, pray together. Right? When you do that, I'm telling you, a bond that happens, and now mom and dad are on the same playing field, and now anything below that, which are their children, is setting a new standard. Look how mom and dad treat each other. We need to respect that. However, dad says, shut up to mom. The little ones say, wow, that's a new standard. That's allowed. So I can tell mom to shut up too. And that's exactly what happened at office. And I looked at her and I said, I know your husband. If you want me to talk to him, I'll talk to him. But you're scared as scared gets to talk to him about that because you're afraid of what he's going to say to you. Yeah, that's called abuse. It's called being a little narcissistic, borderline gaslighting, and it's not good. You need to create a new standard because you are an asset to that family. Do you see how easy this is to understand? When you create a policy for your life, I don't care if you're in high school, college, you're grown, you're married, you're divorced, you're miserable, you're depressed, create a new standard and then write that down. That's your policy of who you are. Print it out, laminate the darn thing and put it in your wallet. I don't care. Put it up on the wall. Take a picture of you, have it next to you. You got a picture of you standing next to your standards. Create your own resume for you. Because when you do that, this is what I want. I don't accept this. I want this. This is how I live my life. I want to surround myself with people that serve, give, and love. That's a standard for me. If you take from my life, I remove you from my life. It's like I look at food. Food should fuel my body. It shouldn't take from my body. You hanging out with me should add to my life because I want to do the same for you. That's it. That's why I get my spine adjusted, by the way, because I know it's constructive and good for me. I like to exercise because it's constructive and good for me. I drink plenty of fluids every day, so I'm hydrated, so it's constructive for me. I pray to God all of the time, and I talk to God, growing a relationship with Dad. And I do that because I know it's good for my soul. You see that? And so when we do the things that are constructive, good for me, I become a better asset for not only myself, not only the community or my family, but I put a smile on God's face and said, man, you did good, Eddie. You did good. I know you're not perfect and you're a sin-filled dude, but you're doing great, man. It feels good to feel good. And you know the Spirit will talk to you because you know when you're doing something right, and you sure as heck know when you're doing something good. Don't you? When you're serving, you know when you're doing something wrong. Oh, do you? It stings. How many times have you seen people in jail 10 years later finally confess to that thing because it's eating them, even though they'll never get out of prison, but they have to let go of that. That's the Spirit speaking to you. Because you know when you're putting on a certain something and you're getting ready to go out with the girls and you're wearing a certain something that is going to reveal and bring the wrong being to your life, the wrong guy. Why doesn't he respect me? You're not respecting you. Again, it's how you take care of your asset. It's what you want. It's by raising that standard who you want. I can't say that enough. And so you want a new job. Why? What's the point? Making more money? Good. What are you going to do with the money? Because you can't take it with you. What do you want? I want a bigger house. Why? I want a simpler house. Why? It's what you want, but why? Does it match your vision and your standards? So you have to write a vision for your life. I'm in my 50s and I rewrite it all of the time because life, heck, the only thing permanent in life is change. Life always changes. There's always flux. It's always in adaptation. It's kind of like our body. Our body is forever changing. Yeah, I used to have hair. And so it's always changing. And so, heck, a year ago, I was a 36 waist at 185 pounds. Now I'm a 32 waist at 185 pounds. Why? Because I set a standard. There's no way in the world I'm going to wear 36 pants. And when I found myself putting them on and they're feeling more comfortable than 34s, not on my watch. No. That's unacceptable. Why? Because that was my policy. That was my standard. No. I said, I'm never going to hit 199 or 200 pounds. I'm not going to go there. I've got up to 199 pounds one day. This was, 20 years ago. And I was eating like, I was in college and eating like a goofball and not taking care of me. And I said, no way. I want to be able to look at the world and say, I've never hit 200 pounds. And that was my standard. See, again, it doesn't make me better than anybody else. I'm just trying to be a better version of me today. I want to compare me to yesterday. So I'm moving forward in this thing called life, and you should do the same. You are an asset, and God loves you, and you have an intention and a purpose and a reason to be here. And when we live in the world of compare, as I go back to that quote, you'll stop worrying about what other people think of you when you, ready? When you realize how seldom they do. We need to stop. Just stop. Take a deep breath. Couldn't do that. Let's do that right now. Let's do it. I'm going to do it with you. Hold it. Hold it. And you pause. How many times have you seen something bad and you go, you take it in with a breath? We all do that, right? When something bad, we take that deep breath in. We remember that. And our body's always listening. So what are you putting into your ears? What are you viewing with your eyes? What are you surrounding yourself with? Is it fueling you? Is it making you a better you? Because it's really easy, 2 clicks away on anything on that phone of ours. We call it a smartphone. It's not so smart because the people on it are not the smartest. Because sometimes we do some really stupid things on that phone. And we go on websites that we don't belong to. Can't change them. It's like, people are arguing about all these books in school. I don't care what kind of books people write. Freedom of speech, have a good time. I don't care. I do not care if they're satanic books, trans books. I don't care. I don't care. Go ahead, write them. What I do care about is if there's a standard and a policy set up within the school system, they need not be on my children's bookshelf. Not acceptable. That's my policy. That's my standard. I'm their father. I want to lead them the right way. So when they get older as adults, they have standards and policies. Have a standard. You are the best asset in the world to you. I promise you, when you take care of you physically, emotionally, spiritually, everything else will fall into place. Write down a vision. Write down what you want. Because when you think about, a friend of mine, we were, again, chit-chatting 2 days ago about having a eulogy, and I was reading his eulogy, what it would be like to be known. What you're doing is you're creating a new policy and a vision and standard so you become a better asset to your environment. Community, church, school, that workplace, doesn't matter. Home, right? So it's what you want. I want what you want. Just tell me what you want. And then if it doesn't coincide with something I believe in, then you're going to have to find another group. But if it does coincide with something I believe in because I love you and I want good for you and you're trying to do good in the world, I am going to serve you in any way I can to make sure that that happens for your life. That's what it means to me to get weller. It truly does. If getting weller is all about having a healthy body, healthy mind, and healthy relationship, all of these things I was talking about are relationships. Relationship with the mirror, relationship with others, relationship with your yesterday, relationship with your clothes, with what's on the plate, with you in the car, with who you are in love with. We are surrounded by relationships. So, on this day, when you just think of all of the different things, what do I do? How do I go right now? Don't write about what you don't want, because that's really easy. Start writing down things of what you do want and how you want to create a game plan for getting there. And then give it a time frame. Set a goal. In 4 months, I'd like to, weigh this way. And in 8 months, I would like to put on my favorite pants. I always tell everybody, lose the scale. Just get rid of the scale, and put on a favorite pair of jeans. And when you do that, let that be your gauge, because then you feel good. The number should not dictate your happiness. You step on that scale and you look down, oh man, I'm losing this. I got that. People do it daily. There's scales everywhere, and we call it a health meter. It's not a health meter. It has nothing to do with your health. Nothing. It's a scale. It's what you want. But again, allow it to set a gauge. Remember, I was 199? That was my standard. I need to go back down to something where I'm comfortable. Right now, I'm comfortable at 100, 185 pounds. Why? Because I feel good in clothes and I have the energy that I have so I can serve and be a better asset to people. I hope this helps. Think good things. Keep your head on straight. I'm telling you, be a good asset. Have a great day.